Uranus is surrounded by fart clouds.
Finally. We've been wanting to know for years.
Yes.
It's one of the big science questions.
Yes. So
Clickbait is great. I'll say that right now. You want to have the entire article right there in that 5 sentence.
And welcome to What's on the Fourth Floor. Today I'm your host, Rebecca Fitzgerald, together with my co-hosts,
Ethan Goebbels.
Carson Green.
Right, so I think we're starting with What's with That, and Ethan, do you have something for that?
I do. I have been scrounging through the news, the science news. Actually, I do that all the time because we have to do science news here in the podcast, which we will eventually get to. But I came across, this was a while ago. I actually haven't been on the podcast for a while now that I think about it. So I saved this.
We have our
to
guest
bring
today,
up.
Ethan Goebbels.
Yeah. I saved this to bring up in the next one that I was on. I was just scrolling through. I have an app, a news app on my phone. And it's an iPhone, so it's the normal news app that comes with an iPhone.
Standard news that gets you news from everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also kind of, like, as you view things, it kind of tailors the news feed to what you like or what you like
Or whatever
at.
Facebook tells it you like.
Whatever, yeah, right, yeah. So I get a lot of, because I scroll through a lot of science news, I've got a lot of science news on my news feed. And so I see there's lots of different sources, science, or sources for science news. And I was scrolling through and I saw, this was back in April, I saw a title of an article, which I'm going to read to you now. It says, Uranus is literally a fart factory. And of course that caught my eye.
Now, how clickbaity is this title?
That's my what's with that. I mean,
Clickbait. Okay.
Here on the there was actually another one I wanted to. Yeah, so that was from Inverse. I don't know if you ever heard of. I don't know.
Nope.
Inverse. There's also Popular Science. There was a Popular Science one was right next to it that said scientists finally confirm that Uranus is surrounded by fart clouds.
Finally. We've been wanting to know for years.
Yes.
It's one of the big science questions.
Yes. So
Clickbait is great. I'll say that right now. You want to have the entire article right there in that 5 sentence or 5-word sentence. Boom, you got your article. It's a fart factory.
Here's what it's
been
actually.
confirmed.
I mean, here's
Clearly
what it's
no one is
actually
safe from
about.
clickbait.
Yeah.
As we're finding out.
Right. Here's what it's actually about.
Just the methane.
Yeah, exactly. Scientists in Hawaii, they used a near-infrared telescope. They observed light reflecting off of Uranus's cloud tops, and they did a spectral analysis of it and confirmed that it was methane. But we've known
about that for so long.
Yeah, we've at least thought of, Actually, no, sorry. They found hydrogen sulfide. Yeah, they found hydrogen sulfide, which is the stench and is responsible for the stench in rotten eggs and farts.
Oh, wow. Well, you heard it here first. Science news.
Yeah, I know. So
it's great.
That's my question, because here on the podcast, I like to think that we do our fair share to promote science, right? To the general public. But my question is, how far should we be willing to go? Because this is just pure clickbait. This is actually the first time I've ever really seen a clickbaity title for a science.
Now, to be fair,
breakthrough.
at least it's relevant. Like, it's still, you kind of know what to expect going in. It's not completely different.
Is it though? I mean, there's no one on Uranus producing these farts, so it's not a fart
it's at least
factory.
telling. Okay, so that's exaggerating a lot, but it's at least telling you that it's looking at Uranus and looking at the clouds around it and seeing what it's made out of. You can kind of infer that.
Yeah.
It's not like they start talking about Saturn or something.
Well, okay, true, yeah.
Or just going off on, like, mentioning, like, one line and then taking the rest of the article to talk about something else.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, it could be worse.
Could be better, too.
It could be.
Yes.
It could be better. But,
well, kind of going along with the clickbaitiness to it. It's like, have you ever clicked on an article and you have ad block on or something? and it's like, please remove ad block to access this site.
Mm-hmm.
So you do remove it, and then you get on the site, and it's just there's ads you have to like click and close. Like it just fills up the entire screen. It's like, I don't know. Going off the clickbait, they're obviously making money off these advertisements on their pages. Otherwise, they wouldn't have them. But it's like I have to question. It's like, what's the real goal behind your news articles and stuff? Is it to share this news? I mean, it's obviously to make money as well to keep your company alive.
What's their prime goal there?
Yeah, it's like,
I think their goal is
hard
still
to
just
share
like
the news when nobody will click past your ad block
Right.
thing. Like
Yeah.
I know most people will just leave that news site and go to a different one if they have that ad block thing. It's like, hey,
and
you
just
don't
search for the
come here.
news story, see where else you can read it at.
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like I don't get why. I don't know if they're actually accomplishing their goals with this.
I've gotten science news from these same sources in the past. They actually do write legitimate articles, and this was a legitimate article. It's like when you read it, like they're actually telling you about a study that was just done. But just like science is not the most popular subject in the public's eye. It's not the first thing you go to if someone who's going to read news, someone who's going to look for news, probably is not the kind people who are going to go look for science news. So I understand they're trying to get people to come and learn about, Uranus. But like, how far are you willing to go? Because I just searched it. I had it on my phone. As you saw, I pulled up my phone here, but I also wanted it on my laptop screen. So I searched the title in Google, and it came up with all of the related, some article titles from a bunch of other sources. So one of them says, Uranus smells like Uranus. And then in parentheses, when you fart. That seems a little too far. For me,
I mean,
Yeah.
that's not. That's getting to the point where it's not even like
another
trying to be relevant. It sounds like it's just trying to like be so
ridiculous
that you click on it first.
Yeah, it's clickbait.
Yeah,
it's almost a literal definition of clickbait. Except, like you said, Rebecca, it's clickbait that's actually relevant to the article.
So it is relevant to the article, but it's like
so
that
at least has that going
case.
for it.
That exact case is like they're just trying to be so ridiculous. And I don't know. It's
or another one.
strange.
There's another one. Another link on this. This says planet Uranus smells like farts and urine, according to scientists. They gotta throw that in there. It's like, I don't know. I just I found that interesting. And I wanted.
And if they shift too far towards like the more crude, like immature humor, then they're definitely going to lose like some of the more mature readers who are into science news, who aren't going to click on articles like that simply because they start getting ridiculous with their headlines. So I know they're like trying to get more people to read it, but they're definitely going to start losing people too if they start getting too just over the top with these.
I think the other thing I think is like they could get to the point where they don't just have clickbaity titles. They could just get to the point where they start making stuff up to get people to click on it, like
fake science news.
Yeah, like where do you stop that? Where do you stop getting clicks on your links?
Yeah,
like where do you draw the line at?
An exercise in the
it
slippery
could be anywhere,
slope, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually gonna search this. I'm thinking now that because I didn't do too much background research into this. I'm thinking that maybe they're all using that exact wording because maybe the press release or something from the researchers mentioned that.
It could be possible.
But I will find out. But
I would, yeah.
Okay, so I went to the Gemini Observatory. Was the one that was used to do this research. I went to their webpage or their website, and I found their press release from April 23rd, and the title of it says, "What do Uranus's cloud tops have in common with rotten eggs?"
So maybe the clickbait titles aren't as bad as we think in this case. Then, if they're kind of going off of the same thing of how he describes it.
The press release.
Yeah, the press release and the clickbait titles are a bit more ridiculous, but it's also
still gives it more of a tie-in to what's happening.
Yeah, so
using similar wording.
At the same time,
maybe it's not as bad then.
They knew what they were doing though, because There's not one mention of the word fart in this entire press release. It's only, and it's like the very first sentence is hydrogen sulfide, the gas that gives rotten eggs their distinctive odor, permeates the upper atmosphere of the planet Uranus.
See, I'm going to go ahead and say they are not at fault in this specific case.
Who's they?
The articles. At least some of them. I think
you're
that
wrong.
one article you mentioned was obviously
I think you're wrong because
I think the first one that you saw, the smell is a fart factory or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's not terribly off.
Because most people are gonna know that there's not people on there, obviously.
Yeah.
Like,
or
they're not gonna take it
animals or
too
whatever.
seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I disagree with you, Carson.
Okay.
I disagree with you because
impromptu verses.
yeah, that's pretty much what it's turned into. No, I disagree with you because we found the original press release here.
Yep.
And they only say rotten eggs, and they only talk about it once. Like, they do use rotten eggs in the title, so that is they're trying to catch your eye.
The press release even put rotten eggs in the title.
That's what I'm saying. The press release, the title of it says, "What do Uranus cloud tops have in common with rotten eggs?"
No,
and then the first sentence
I'm on
is
board now.
hydrogen
I'm okay
sulfide,
with it.
blah 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 blah, and then, but then there's no mention of the word. That was it, and then it just talks about what they found, the findings of the.
But is that not kind of like the other article?
No, well, then you look at the rest of the articles. All the other articles, they forget about the rotten eggs part, and they say, "Yeah, Uranus is made up of farts."
Okay, I don't care about that though.
Because they did their research and found out that hydrogen sulfide, which makes rotten eggs smell bad, also is what makes farts smell bad.
But see,
they did their own research,
guess where I'm getting
and then
at,
that's what they linked it to.
I guess where I'm getting at though is that both of the titles are similar enough to me that it doesn't really matter. They just changed the word from rotten egg to fart. And then the other thing though is that how do the actual articles read? When you actually click the article, what does it read?
Like, does it have quality content?
That's what I'm saying. Is it quality content
it's
like the press release?
Legitimate. Like, once you read it, it's pretty much a legitimate.
I'm on board then. I think in this certain scenario the clickbait is fine.
And it makes sense. Like, in a press conference, they're going to be somewhat professional, so they're going to refer to rotten eggs instead of farts because it's a press conference. Mm-hmm. And researchers reporting their findings, and they don't want people to get distracted.
Yeah, but the names of these articles, let me just go through. Uranus is literally a fart factory. Uranus smells like Uranus when you fart. Uranus, there's another one. Uranus is literally a fart factory, and it would absolutely kill you. Scientists confirm that Uranus is surrounded by fart clouds. Uranus is literally a fart factory. And there's another one.
They keep saying literally.
Literally.
Yes.
Do they know what
Planet
literally
Uranus
means?
smells like farts and urine, according to scientists.
So I mean, yes, we have confirmed that they are clickbait titles. But I mean, like I said, the press release even had rotten eggs in the title of it, and that was a press release. Like, an article is just going to make it a little bit more. I mean, all they did was change a word from rotten eggs to fart. I don't think that's too terrible.
They didn't just change the word from rotten eggs to fart. They fart factory. You know, that implies that farts are being created there. And maybe somebody who doesn't realize that this is a clickbait title.
I don't think anybody does not realize that.
Yeah,
I feel like the vast majority of people would kind of realize it, especially if they actually read the article or at least start reading it. They should hopefully realize fairly quickly that they're not being produced. I say hopefully because I'm sure there are people who.
I was gonna say on that note, we're kind of like getting into like a weird societal thing where it's like instead of sitting down and being like. This is like instead of like seeing the article headline and then reading it to see if the two coincide with each other, it's like a lot of times I do know a lot of people that will just read the headline and move on to the next article. Mm-hmm. But I do think that in this case, I don't think the majority of people are going to go, "Oh, there's a fart factory there."
Okay, let me put this out there. I agree with you, Carson, that in this case, this is not clickbait in the true definition of the word, you know, because I don't believe that they have some sort of agenda behind,
especially since they do have a good article when you go into
right.
That again is relevant to the title.
They actually want to tell you about this new finding that these researchers released, but and you know it's not like it's taking you to a ad infested web page.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that it's actually clickbait, but my question that I originally posed to you was not, is this clickbait? It was, at what point do we stop? You know, like we want to try to entice readers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want a readership. We want people to be learning about science news, you know, especially new science. So you want to try to entice those people who are not always interested in the science. But at what point do you say, no, this is too far? Like we've crossed a moral or principle.
I agree, there definitely should be limits. I mean, I keep going back to relevance, 'cause I think that's really important. When the title just becomes like maybe one throwaway line in the article, or like not even mentioned anywhere. As long as, at least that's one criterion I think it should meet, is that the title should definitely have relevance to the article, like significant relevance, not just like the last sentence in the article maybe ties into it. So that's one thing. And if it starts going away from that and doesn't mean anything, then that's going too far.
Yeah, as long as it's professionally written, or not, as long as it's professional enough that like you could sit down and read it and like it's okay. I mean, the title.
Talk about the article or the title?
Or article.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I think in this case, if they would have said like the Uranus is a fart factory, and then they like had like they didn't have like a good article to follow up on it. It wouldn't really like do much for me, but
yeah, and
kind of like what you were saying exactly.
I'm kind of scrolling. I picked one of them, and I'm kind of scrolling through the article here, and I can't really decide whether or not it's a throwaway line, because it gives kind of an introduction. It says like researchers just did this study, or they, looked at Uranus through this telescope. Last sentence of the first paragraph, they found hydrogen sulfide, which is the chemical compound responsible for the stench in rotten eggs and, yes, farts. And then that's it. And then they talk more about it. And then later on it says, though Uranus has now been confirmed as the fart dungeon of death.
Wow.
Because they talk about how these gases they're not currently are dangerous for us, but they would be dangerous for us if humans went to Uranus and decided to take off their spacesuit.
Yeah.
There,
but take a while to get there too.
But yeah, I don't know. It's not like they really it is kind of a throwaway line, because, like I said, the scientists didn't actually talk about the relation to farts.
But I mean,
you wouldn't expect scientists.
But you wouldn't expect, right? So that's my point. That's my point. Like, if you wouldn't expect scientists to do it, then there is kind of a principle there that you don't want to cross that line.
But you do want to make it more accessible to the public too. Sometimes scientists go really high level science, and then most people are just gonna not understand it. So some articles will I don't want to say dumb it down, but make it at a more accessible level to the readers.
Right, and we've definitely had lots of news articles like that on the podcast before, where it's like I saw the article, I thought it looked interesting because the title did catch my eye. They used some sort of maybe inaccurate way of describing but it was catchy. It was, it looked interesting, and then I read into it and found out, okay, it's maybe not as dramatic as they put it in the first, but that's what journalists are supposed to do in general anyway. They're supposed to catch your eye. So I've been fine with that until this was a little too far for me. So I think this
one was acceptable enough.
All right. Well, last thing I want to ask both of you. Do you hear Yanny or Laurel?
Yanny.
I hear Laurel.
Hear Yanny.
I can't hear Yanny.
Okay, if I try really, really hard, I can kind of hear Laurel, but I've heard it's like the pitch that you hear it at. So like if you make it more of a high pitch, you can hear Laurel more, and then low pitch, you hear Yanny more.
See, that's strange because I listened to the high pitch one and I heard Yanny more.
Oh, okay, well.
But like when in the normal one, I heard Laurel.
I haven't heard.
And I asked my roommate, and he said that he heard Yanny, and the higher pitch one he heard Laurel. So it's like the exact opposite. I don't know.
So this does kind of have a basis in science. We did read an article. Carson and I read an article the other day. Of course, this has become a popular sensation, and so immediately all the journalists went to scientists and said, "Hey, what's going on here?" And one of the scientists, or whatever we read, they said it was like, it was probably more of a genetic predisposition. Not genetic, but you're kind of predisposed to
hear one or the other.
Yes, because they talked about how we only learn to hear things, out of experience, or listen to things out of experience.
And it's interesting because, like, my mom and I, we both have slight hearing loss, and we both hear Yanny. So we were wondering if, like, for us, that may have influenced it slightly.
I don't know. I hear Laurel, so y'all are crazy.
Y'all.
And
nah, we're right.
Well, I guess Carson, you hear Laurel as well, but 50% of the population is crazy.
I thought it was more uneven than 50-50.
I bet it
Honestly,
is.
I think Yanny is a minority.
Are,
I think Laurel, more people hear Laurel.
More people hear Laurel.
So more people are wrong.
Well, that one article. Oh, jeez. And on that note, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have some more news articles because yay news.
Because there weren't enough news in this section already.
All right, so stick around.
And welcome back to What's on the Fourth Floor. This section we're talking about what's in the news, and I think we're starting with Carson.
World's ending. It's all going downhill.
Tell me something.
All right, and that was Carson's article. Moving on.
Yep. Okay, so starting out, we have a thing called the ocean. Covers up a lot of
those.
A lot of the Earth. Just one.
Please define.
So basically, we are destroying it. Like we are everything else.
Of course.
Yeah, what's new?
What's new? But we have some information on how much we're destroying it.
Oh, great.
It's actually kind of interesting.
Oh, boy.
So to begin with, plastic. We use it every day in everything. Everything nowadays is plastic. And this actually came, here's a little history for you, which I did not exactly know about. It actually came from World War II. And when we had a shortage of natural materials, so we started switching to synthetic materials to compensate for the missing natural materials that we had.
That was that shift. Our civilization
shift. It happened around 1950, and I actually have some stats here that in 1950, world production started at 2.3 million tons
of plastic.
Plastic. By 1993, it grew to 162 million tons.
Wow.
In 2015. We are now, well, 2015 is a couple of years ago, but we are now close to 448 million tons.
Wow, that's
it
a
is
lot
exponentially growing at a very fast rate. So half the world's plastic is made in Asia, and 29% is made in China. So
wait, half the world's plastic?
Half the world's plastic is made in Asia, and 29% in China. So between China and I guess just Asia in general.
What goes into making plastic? I don't really know how plastic is made.
Well,
that's a good question. I mean, isn't plastic made out of like oil?
That's what I thought.
I'm not for sure.
Or at least it used to be.
Plastics are polymers, long-chain molecules made of repeating links. So it's basically just a lot of molecules that can link together. And yes, it is derived from fossil fuels such as crude oil and natural gases.
Okay.
They are synthesized, obviously, because we are making them. So, since plastic has started in 1950, we have about
producing in massive
quantities. We have about 9.2 billion tons of plastic.
Waste?
Just plastic.
9.2
total. Billion tons of
we're adding it up.
Yeah,
gotcha.
all time.
Okay, that's a lot of plastic.
It's a lot of plastic, and 6.3 billion tons never seem to make it to a recycling bin.
Wait.
Wow.
No, how many minutes? Okay, give me the total again.
9.2 billion.
Okay, so 9 billion.
Yes.
9. And how much of it doesn't go to the recycling?
6.3 billion.
So only 3 billion gets recycled.
So now the question's kind of like,
man.
Crap. Only
where
is
this plastic at?
In the oceans.
The oceans and
landfills,
everything like that.
Yeah.
So the problem is that in our society today, we have grown ourselves to become dependent on this plastic.
Yeah, no kidding.
We can't really function without it. And of course, this plastic that ends up in these landfills and in the, which ends up in the ground and in the ocean, whatever, 450 years to possibly never is how long it takes to deteriorate it. So we haven't even gotten to a point where we're near the original plastics that were made in the 50s to be deteriorating.
Yeah.
We haven't even scratched the surface on it. So that means all this plastic we've made is still on this earth in some form or another.
Just sitting around.
But what's interesting to me about the form that this plastic is in is that we see that 15% of beaches are thought to be made of microplastics.
Wait, like the sand on the beach?
Sand on the beach.
No kidding.
15% is thought to be
No
the
way.
microplastics, and it's not actually sand.
I mean, if so much is in the oceans, it makes sense that it can get washed up.
But how this microplastics get made is kind of interesting. There is a type of shrimp that can shred plastic bags and stuff.
A shrimp?
A shrimp called Orchestia. The link to all of this stuff where I got my information
Call it the shrimp
from.
shredder.
Yeah, it's
The
basically
shrimp,
a
the
shredder
plastic,
like that.
shrimp plastic shredder.
Yeah,
Shrimp
it
shredder.
shreds plastic, but it said that it could shred a single bag, single plastic bag, your Walmart bag, your Target bag, whatever. It could shred it into 1.75 million microscopic fragments.
Wow.
Jeez.
And it said that it could do it
Impressive.
very fast as well. It's not like a slow process.
Why do they even? Obviously, they didn't develop naturally to shred plastic.
No.
So what do they
But I
think?
believe
Plastic
it's
is some sort of
just-
food source to
I
them?
believe they mistake it as a food source. I don't exactly know, but I think that's what it was. I can
I
look
wonder
it
what
up.
its food source is that's similar to plastic.
Yeah, I mean, does this
bags.
harm it at all? Is it like not finding its food, so it's turning into plastic?
Well, I mean, okay, I don't know if it says that, but I would guess that it doesn't, because if this is something, if there truly is that much plastic out there, and these shrimp are able to shred it, and if it was dangerous for the shrimp, then we would see that shrimp population starting to die off,
That's true.
because there's just so much plastic out there.
I mean, how is our population? Do we know that they're not dying out?
Do we know? That's a good question. Are we gonna run out of
guys-
shrimp eventually?
You guys are throwing
Well, that one kind of
a
shrimp.
lot of questions.
What kind of shrimp? Oh,
That
the
kind of
yeah,
shrimp.
special kind of
Shredding
shrimp.
shrimp.
But that could throw the rest of the food chain off. That
Like
we
the
could start
predators
seeing.
would lose their food source.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, the predators would lose this. They'd have
Start
to turn
eating
to
other
other kinds of
shrimp.
shrimp, and then we lose the kind of shrimp that we eat. What would we eat at cocktail parties?
That's the ultimate question with this. We have an
Oh,
ocean
no.
filled with plastic.
This is how honestly,
But we need our
honestly,
shrimp
this
right now.
is the spin we need to put on this issue.
We
Because
need-
the only
yeah.
people who can really do stuff about this is all the rich people, right?
So we get them worried about it.
We
and
get
then
them
they'll
worried about their
make a
cocktail
change.
parties.
Uh,
Yeah,
Everyone will follow their lead and start recycling more.
exactly.
It's very strange
that.
actually.
It's not every day that we solve a world problem.
I'm not.
Just every other day, right?
Every other
I
day.
have gone ahead and
Here on
looked-
What's on the Fourth Floor. That's what we are. We're a think tank. Solve the world problems.
I've looked it up and it doesn't. There is no There doesn't seem to be a solid explanation as to why. It just says that like in the presence of a biofilm, this activity increases fourfold. A biofilm is when a group of any group of microorganisms organisms in which cells stick to each other and often.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know where this is going, but all I'm trying to say is that there doesn't seem to be a real explanation except that it just shreds the bags. So I don't know
They can, so they do it.
I guess so.
I mean, the life of the shrimp. What else do you have to do? It's not like you watch Netflix.
And of
That we know about.
No, we know there's a whole
Maybe they have
shrimp
there's a whole
Netflix.
secret shrimp society.
Okay, so the other thing is that you were talking about where we could see like a shift in our ecosystem of the ocean.
Right.
They'll
yeah.
switch to something that will make it more
Mhm.
effective for this plastic that's in the environment. We have seen stuff that have actually so seahorses, in case you don't know, they mate for life.
Also called hippocampi.
There you go. Hippocampi, they mate for life.
Right.
And when they do, they oftentimes will wrap their tails around each other and then get swept away in the current type of deal. If they're getting swept
Yeah.
away, they'll wrap their tails around each other.
That's
But
cute.
this photographer found a seahorse.
Oh no, is it with plastic instead?
It's a Q-tip. It has its tail wrapped around a piece of Q-tip.
No
and-
way.
Oh,
He says it himself. He's like, I wish this picture never existed. He said a photo I wish didn't exist because he found a
Yeah.
seahorse latch onto a
that's
Q-tip
really sad.
instead of its
That is
mating
very
partner. But
sad.
it made me think
Aw.
about that it could affect
Yeah.
mating. He may think that that's his mating partner and just never think about it.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
So
then never create more.
if he started getting
Yeah.
swept away in the currents and he was trying to latch onto his mating partner, and instead he latched on the Q-tip.
Q-tip, he's gone.
The mating partner's gone.
Yeah. So
That's sad.
It's kind of sad, yeah.
It's also sad because I never ever want to touch anybody else's Q-tips, and here he is latching on to it and mating with it.
He doesn't know what's going on. Yeah.
He doesn't know where it's been.
He has no idea
but usually
where that Q-tip has been.
They also clutch onto drifting seagrass. That's like usually what they latch onto as well if they don't have a partner. If they're getting stuck in a current, they'll latch onto a seagrass.
But that'll.
But I'm saying though that the Q-tip, it's like this is now what he's gotten to because it's what he found.
Because of grass, it's
sad, you know.
That's very sad.
But also just one other random little thing on here before we switch over to Ethan's topic. But there was a river in somewhere in India, I believe. It's called the Pasig River, and it once flowed. The Philippines. Sorry, in Manila of Philippines, it had having 72,000 tons of water flow downstream in 1990, and now they've officially declared that it's like a dead biologically dead river. Since 1990, it's like in 1990 it was said that it's an officially dead biological river. So just an entire river was just considered dead.
Do they know why? What happened to it?
Because of plastic pollution. Basically just natural, just because of pollutions that have gone into this river. It's just officially dead biologically. I was like, it's crazy. Because, nobody really thinks about what happens when they throw away their spoon or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, recycle. Recycle. It'll help
very
a lot.
PSA brought to you by What's on the Fourth Floor.
Yep. That was just some interesting things with the ocean.
Very sad. Thanks, Carson.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks for bringing the mood down.
Luckily, mine actually, oddly enough, it ties into what you were talking about, but it's not like sad. It's not a sad topic. It's a very intriguing topic.
That's good.
So I found this article on the Atlantic, and I was reading. It's written by an astrobiologist, and he was telling a story. I guess he's an astrophysicist, but whatever. He was telling a story. He was talking to one of his colleagues. His name is Gavin Schmidt. He's from NASA's Goddard Institute of Space Studies. And they were talking about astrobiology. And in the conversation, they were talking about civilizations on our own planet and how we would detect such a civilization, because they're trying to figure, that's their search for life in the universe. How are we going to detect other civilizations? And somebody, this Gavin dude, made the comment, said, wait a second, how do we know that we've been the only civilization on our own planet? Mm-hmm. And they completely got off topic, ended up writing a study, or they published a study in the International Journal of Astrobiology about how we would find out whether or not there's been other civilizations on our own planet.
So what I'm understanding is that we know about dinosaurs and all this stuff, but we're saying that before. So it was there was not human race. I guess kind of like a human race that died off.
Yeah, some sort of intelligent
was reborn again.
Yeah, some sort of intelligent society that developed on Earth.
Now, have either of you seen Doctor Who at all?
No.
I can think of at least 2 or 3 episodes where they explore this.
I can think of an episode of Star Trek Voyager where it's a little applicable.
Yeah, there is an episode I can think of Doctor Who where there's this race of lizard people who live either under the earth or somewhere, but they lived thousands of years before humans did, and then they all went into cryogenic hibernation.
Could perhaps be the crab people, which was talked about.
Oh,
in a previous podcast.
Yes, of course, the crab people. Because I was hoping that we could just bring that up out of the blue someday.
You gotta make references for the loyal listeners out there.
But yeah, so the rest of the article, that was just the beginning. The rest of the article talks about, how would we detect our own civilization? We know what we produce, or what, because that's the thing. Like you said, we know about dinosaurs. We know about extinct species. But the only reason we know about them is because they're in the fossil record. What people don't realize, because people out there might say well, I feel if there was a civilization, we definitely would have unearthed it by now, right?
Unless there's nothing to unearth.
Exactly. The Earth could have gone through some major changes that changed it. That changed the outer layers of it, and then.
Right. Here's the thing: people don't realize in the geologic record, like for fossils, it's incredibly difficult to make a fossil. So even though we have so many fossils, it's actually really hard to make fossils. So
I guess on that point, I wonder if most people don't know how fossils are actually made. I wonder if most people think like you just find the bones in the ground.
Right, yeah, just like any organism will.
For people that don't know, the bones are just caved into the rock. Like, well, the bones are gone.
But the bones are gone, right.
There's a cave-in the rock, which you fill with a plastic. But you basically fill it in.
Not plastic.
Isn't it?
Or it depends on what you mean by plastic.
I was just saying, like,
it's filled with sediments,
it's
right?
Filled with sediments.
And then eventually hardens, and that is what we see, right? That's what we see. But like that, whatever it takes to make a fossil is incredibly rare. So fossils are actually not, that commonplace. But so we were talking about, just think about the geologic timescales of our own planet. The dinosaurs died off 60 million years, 65 million years ago, right?
So
our own species, Homo sapiens, have only been around for the last 300,000 years. So not even a million years. The dinosaurs were 65 million years ago. So the question becomes, what could have happened in that time between? Like, we have no idea. There very well could have been. So they were talking about what I really want to talk about was how would future archaeologists discover that humans once inhabited this planet, that there once was a great civilization of humans. And so the question is, what do we leave behind? And they go through
plastic.
Plastic, exactly. I mean there's they list a bunch of little small things like, well, first of all, they estimate in their study, that like traces of our human civilization will be able to be detected 100 million years into the future. So things like our extensive use of fertilizer, trying to feed a population or world population, right? So our extensive use of fertilizer is actually redirecting the planet's natural flow of nitrogen. So that will be detectable. Our use of rare earth metals in electronics, like gold.
And also just radiation in general.
Radiation in general, right? Yes, exactly. So they'll be able to detect that. But yeah, plastic is a big thing, especially in the oceans.
Well, I mean, it's easy to find.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
So they actually say microscopic plastic, right? That plastic gets broken up, and they're actually finding plastic in like the deepest basins in the ocean, and even in the Arctic. And that plastic will eventually get broken up into the microscopic scale, and it'll all fall down into the ocean floor and leave a layer of plastic on the ocean floor that will persist for geologic timescales.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, so you could be okay. So it would be like how you would dig through, like if you're looking for fossils, you would see the layers of the earth, and then all of a sudden there would be a layer of plastic. In the rock.
Yeah, because I mean, those layers can tell you a lot about what happened, like with the Earth in the meantime.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, that like different geologic eras are named, like Cretaceous period or something like that. So the current period that we're in is the Anthropocene. There we go, Anthropocene, which anthro means human or whatever. Anthropocene. So basically, future geologic studies will look back at the Anthropocene layer, and it'll just be dominated by plastic, But also, it'll be dominated by all of the carbon that we're putting in the atmosphere, because we're also not only redirecting nitrogen, but with our extensive use of fossil fuels, we're redirecting the planet's carbon, and it's all being put into our layer. So they'll look back, they'll see
the
Anthropocene
plastic layer, the human layer.
They'll see plastic, they'll see gold, they'll see nitrogen, they'll see carbon, all buried in the Anthropocene layer.
That's very interesting because I'm sure most of the other layers are kind of similar in like rock.
Right?
It's gonna be rock,
plastic,
human, rock.
No, I wonder like how thick it would be and what would follow too. Like after this era or whatever, like would it be more rock or would it be more like different materials from like future civilizations were to develop?
It's also kind of interesting to think about the fact that microplastics are never going to go away.
Our civilization's only been around for like 5,000 years, and we're already producing something that will be detectable for millions of years to come. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that thick, I don't think. But that's a good question. I don't know how thick our layer will be.
And then it's just a question of where are we going to go from here? Yeah. Like, how is it going to change?
Exactly. So, interesting things to think about. I mean, it could be sad if you think about it, but it can also be really cool to think about. Like, we're leaving a mark.
Not think about the seahorses.
Leaving a mark.
And we should start looking. Maybe there's other layers that we haven't detected or we haven't found yet that could show that there was a civilization on Earth before us.
It's probably about all the time that we have for that segment, so thanks for bringing the news stories. We're going to take a short break, and we will be back with a fun little game. And welcome back to What's on the Fourth Floor. Now we're moving on to our game, which I have created. I think it should be fairly entertaining. This is about mythological...
Entertaining for you or entertaining for us?
For the listeners, of course.
We don't matter. We're just a tool.
I mean, hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Carson and I
think it's going to be fun. I mean, it's
about
laughing
at us or laughing with us. That's the question.
It's about mythical characters, so you should at least get to
characters. Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. Or creatures, beasts, however you want to phrase it. Ooh. A lot of these come from other cultures. Like there's a few here from Japan, some from like Slavic beliefs. So they shouldn't be like the really obvious ones that everyone knows, like
the Greek gods,
Yetis or the gods,
the Minotaurs.
Yeah, so I try to make it a little more challenging than that to make this more interesting. So, it's basically going to be a similar format. I'll have a question, you'll get a few options to choose from. I mixed up what the questions are asking, just, again, to make it a little more interesting.
Okay.
So, I think we'll start with Carson. So, your first question is, what is a cluricon? Say it again, a cluricon.
I wasn't ready for this.
All right. So, yes, you will get options, because I would not
Okay. I wasn't even ready.
Total guess.
All right. A long snake-like creature with sharp pieces of glass for teeth and no eyes, which can paralyze its foes by shooting out venom. B, an angry beaver that attacks trespassers and it's part of the woods. C, the half-man, half-lion beast whose roar is powerful enough to knock down trees and appears in the woods during every blue moon. Or D, the drunken cousin of the leprechaun.
Well, hold on a second.
So, this is the cluricon. And I can repeat any and all options if you would like.
I want the first one again.
Okay, first one was the snake. So it's a long snake-like creature with sharp pieces of glass for teeth and no eyes, and it can paralyze its foes by shooting venom.
Claricon.
Where can we buy one of those?
I actually think for sale. I don't think it's a beaver. I just don't think that's like a menacing... for some reason, Claricon sounds menacing, and I don't picture a beaver as menacing. I'm going to go with A.
Okay, you're going with the snake creature?
I am.
That is incorrect.
I knew
The answer is the drunken cousin of the leprechaun.
Yes!
Oh, man.
I was hoping it would just sound like a joke, but it's actually what it is.
No, that was good.
Okay. And one can incur its wrath by being a drunkard or stealing wine, in which case it'll torment you endlessly by just following you around. So it gets drunk and it also torments drunkards.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. Okay, so that is you're at 0 points currently.
Oh, good.
Don't worry, these don't get any easier. All right, Ethan. So your question is about the Leshy. The Leshy is a guardian spirit of the woods, and it looks like a tall peasant, and he either has no belt or he wears his shoes on the wrong feet. It's very specific. Don't know why.
Okay.
He can have wings and a tail, and he can also change his size. He can also become a large talking mushroom. So there's some background on this. What does he do to his victims? All right. A. Sings a badly out-of-tune song until their ears bleed.
That's great.
B. He tickles them to death. C. He screams in their face whenever they start to fall asleep, causing them to eventually die of sleep deprivation.
Oh, God, that's awful.
Or D. Convinces them that they're insane by shape-shifting into his mushroom form.
So it's it.
How much background do I just get the background information you gave me? Do I get to know what culture this comes from?
I believe this one was Slavic.
Okay, this was a Slavic.
I can double check that.
Okay.
It's called the Leshy.
The Leshy.
And again, I can repeat Leshi.
Huh.
And I will repeat any or all answer options if you would like them.
I might need them repeated again.
Okay,
I have a
Slavic
favorite,
mythology.
I have a favorite, but I want to hear them repeated again.
Alrighty. So, what does he do to his victims? Does he sing a badly out-of-tune song until their ears bleed? Does he tickle them to death? Does he scream in their face whenever they start to fall asleep, causing them to eventually die of sleep deprivation? Or D. Convinces them that they're insane by shape-shifting into his mushroom form?
I'm going to say that one. D.
Mushroom.
Convincing them they're insane.
I don't think I get any points, but I would say C.
Well, you're both incorrect.
Oh, boy.
Those just came out of my brain. He actually
wow, that's
tickles them to
crazy.
death.
No way.
Yep.
Tickles.
Oh, that would be the worst way to die.
I'm just wondering, how do you die from getting tickled? Like, I don't know where the death comes in.
You just stop breathing.
Yeah, I guess it
you
gets
just get the
hard
muscle
to breathe.
contracted so much that you just stop breathing.
So you came up with the screaming one. That is absolutely terrifying.
I was trying to think of other like really random ones, so tickled wouldn't stand out too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, oh, wow. Okay. Anyway.
All right, so it's
Carson's
off to a
turn.
great
0-0.
start. We'll see if any points are earned by the end of this.
I feel like that's the typical game segment. It's like no one earns any points.
I do have an idea for a tiebreaker if we need it.
Okay.
But maybe someone will get lucky.
Okay.
All right, so Carson, your creature is the Baba Yaga.
Sounds like a fun guy.
Or a fun woman, actually.
Oh.
She's very similar to the witch from Hansel and Gretel. Oh, wait, with the fun guy. Was that supposed to be a pun with the mushroom guy?
That was a pun with the mushroom thing, yeah.
Okay, well, I caught on eventually. So anyway, she's similar to the witch from Hansel and Gretel, where she lives in a log cabin in the woods, but it has no windows and no doors. And apparently, it has giant dancing chicken legs moving around it.
Oh.
Just a detail I found on that. And she's very evil. So, but the
Sounds
most
like
interesting thing about her is how she travels. So how does she travel around?
How can she travel? She can't even get in and out or out of her
no one else
cabin.
can. She's similar to a witch. I'm sure she has powers to leave and enter. And maybe there's a big hole in the ground.
Yeah, so they dig.
Oh.
Okay, gotcha.
Anyways, so how does she travel? A. Flying on the back of a giant grasshopper. B. With a mortar and pestle, sitting in the mortar and using the pestle to row through the air. Do you know what a mortar and pestle are?
Oh, row. Okay,
It's
I
like
gotcha. No, I know what it is. I was just trying to figure out how
she
you
uses
would
the
move in
pestle
it.
to row through the air.
That's awesome.
C. By walking on a rolling cauldron, kind of like those things where people walk on
like
logs.
a log roller?
She just kind of rolls along by walking on it. And it's also a cauldron that she uses to make potions.
Okay.
Or D. She shrinks down and rides a flying teacup.
Man.
Not a giant teacup. She shrinks down.
Yeah.
I need the first two again, I think.
What?
I need the first two
Okay,
again.
so the first one was flying on the back of a giant grasshopper. And the second one was with the mortar and pestle. Again, sits in the mortar and uses the pestle to row. And then you have the rolling cauldron or the teacup.
Okay. I don't think it's the mortar and pestle. I feel like that's something you would come up with. Like, you just see a mortar and pestle in your house, and you're like, that's what that would go with. But the teacup one and the teacup one seems like stereotypical witch. The cauldron one.
How many witches ride around in teacups?
Well, it's like
I was gonna say the cauldron one, maybe.
Well, the cauldron one's like stereotypical witch, but like
witch is the broom.
you don't picture a witch drinking tea.
No.
Cup.
Really?
No.
I'm gonna go with A, and just get rid of all the ones that make sense.
Giant grasshopper?
Yes.
That's incorrect. It actually is the mortar and pestle.
What?
I did not come up with that.
I really thought that sounded
Nope.
made up. That's crazy.
Nope.
Okay.
And there's some like interesting like images of her like rowing around with it. I don't know why they thought that's what she rides in, but
Yeah.
I mean, I figured
I think maybe whoever created it had a mortar and pestle, and they were like, "That's
yeah, it's probably old enough that it came from a time when those were more widely used.
Oh, fair enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That and chicken legs.
giant
just
dancing
surrounding
chicken
her.
legs. her house. I don't know what that's about.
Crazy.
There's some really weird parts of these myths, though.
All right, I'm going to get a point here. Here we go.
All right. So, Ethan, your creature is a Ikaname. I was trying to figure out how to pronounce this earlier. It's Japanese. It's a demon from Japanese folklore. It looks human-like with red warts, frog-like features, and a really long tongue. Despite being a demon, this is actually quite helpful and doesn't really deserve the name demon, I don't think.
This whatever this creature is.
Yeah,
gotcha.
they call it a demon, but...
Okay.
So the question is, what does it do? A, it sneaks into your bathroom and licks it clean. B, it eats any stray insects that end up in your house, keeping your house free of pests. C, it uses its grotesque form to scare away other demons' nightmares, allowing you to have nothing but good dreams. Or D, it serves as a demonic guard dog that guards your house against robbers and vandals.
It described the thing again?
Okay, so it looks human-like, but it has red warts, frog-like features, and a long tongue.
Okay. And it...
Can't tell if there's a trap placed here or not.
Give me the... Just real quick run through.
Okay, real quick. Sneaks into the bathroom and licks it clean.
Okay, sneaks into the bathroom.
Eats any stray insects in your house. Scares away other demons' nightmares, or serves as a guard dog that guards your house against robbers.
I think I'm going to say the nightmare. It scares away other demons and nightmares.
Scares away demons and nightmares. That's incorrect.
See, I would have said
that was my second guess.
I was going to say the bug one.
That's also incorrect. It sneaks into your bathroom and it licks it clean.
No way.
Why would that be a folklore?
Its name actually means filth liquor.
Filth liquor.
So I figured I should not say that too early on. That might give it away. But...
See, well, I knew it was A or B because you mentioned that its features helped it.
Yeah, see, that's why I figured I should do another one that's kind of frog-like.
Not the last two, really. I didn't really.
It scares away other demons in your nightmares, or it guards your house. How's that not helpful?
But see, I pictured the tongue was the thing, like the long tongue.
It was
either licking clean,
I thought you were talking about the whole entity itself.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a frog.
Right. I thought you were talking about because she also said that I don't know why they call this a demon because it's actually.
Well, but she also said that its features help it do what it does.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Did I say that?
Did you say that?
I'm not sure I said that. I mean, it's true, but.
I
said that it uses its grotesque form to scare away demons and nightmares.
So yeah, that would have.
So that's I think the only one I directly said. But I figured I should come up with another frog-like answer because that way its long tongue. I figured it might be.
That would have gotten me. I would have said the bug one.
Okay, so still 0-0. This is
exciting.
But you're learning stuff about mythological creatures that are really weird. And it's
what was it called again?
Ikaname.
Ikaname.
And they call it a demon, but again, it cleans your bathroom, so it gets a bad rap, I think.
It's just a nice guy.
Yeah. Okay, so, this is your question, Carson. There is an immortal creature from Slavic mythology who cannot be killed unless you can destroy its soul. Now, what is the name of this creature? I'll give more fun information later. So you have 4 options. Vlad, the Unkillable. Malachi, the Always Living. Koshé, the Deathless. Or Madeira, the Survivor.
I'm going to need those one more time.
Right. Vlad, the Unkillable. Malachi, the Always Living. Koshé, the Deathless. Or Madeira, the Survivor.
And you can't kill it unless you...
kill its
soul.
Yeah,
destroying its soul is the only way to kill this thing.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Malachi.
Malachi, the Always Living.
The Always Living.
Incorrect.
I'm going to go with Madeira, the Survivor.
It's also incorrect.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I'm glad I'm good with coming up with fake answers for this.
This is good.
Koshé, the Deathless.
Ooh, that one actually is a good... Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I should have...
Yeah, so then, fun fact, the soul is located in the form of a needle buried under a tree on an island so that nobody dares to enter.
So it's like an Achilles heel.
Exactly,
it's
just really hard to find it,
Oh.
I don't know if there's a haystack around anywhere for the needle, but it's really hard to kill.
All right.
Needle under a tree. I like that.
Yes. All right.
I'll try that sometime.
I'll have to try that.
Okay, and this is the last one. It's my personal favorite. So,
Boy.
And this one...
all or nothing.
I have a fun picture with this that I think should go in the show notes later. All right, so this is called the Karakasa Obake. I think it's also called like Kasa Obake for short.
Okay.
This is a friendly Japanese spirit that is said to have never harmed a human. However, if you saw this thing coming towards you on a dark, stormy night, it might cause some fear, or at least some confusion, because it looks really, really weird.
Okay.
So what does this creature look like? We have a car-sized koi fish with scaled lizard legs, a visor, and the ability to emit bubbles from its mouth.
Visor.
So it's going to be kind of long, as you can tell.
Okay.
A creature that looks like an umbrella, with one leg, wearing a Japanese sandal, one eye, and a really long tongue. We have a small elfin creature with pointed ears, cat-like eyes, and tongue of fire that moves by hopping like a frog. Or D, a bowling ball-sized eyeball that floats through the air and emits a high-pitched screech.
I already have my guess.
Okay. I mean, I can go through these one more time if you want.
Yeah. Actually, did you say an elephant?
I did not say.
What?
No.
Okay. You're going to have to go through
I'll go through them again. So we have a koi fish that's the size of a car.
Because I came up with the one that I wanted to go with, and I kind of stopped paying attention.
Ah, okay. So we have a car-sized koi fish that has scaly lizard legs, a visor, and it can emit bubbles.
Okay.
We have an umbrella with one leg, wearing a Japanese sandal, one eye, and a long tongue. We have a small elfin creature that has pointed ears, cat-like eyes, and a tongue of fire, and it hops like a frog.
Elfin creature.
Elfin, not elephant.
Not elephant.
Elfin, like an elf.
You can't laugh at that, Carson. I thought she said elephant.
Elephant creature.
Okay.
And then an eyeball the size of a bowling ball that floats through the air and emits a really loud screech.
I don't know why, but a flesh umbrella sounds absolutely terrifying.
I'm going to go with the koi fish with lizard legs.
Koi fish is incorrect.
I'm going to go with the umbrella.
Yes, it is the umbrella. Which, again, I have a pretty great picture with that, because it's like...
it's got to be terrifying, right?
Yeah, I feel like if you just saw this coming at you, it would...
But it's a good thing.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt people, but be careful because everyone runs away from it, because it looks so freaky.
Ugh.
Okay. Anyway, so I'll show you guys a picture later. We'll put it in the show notes, because I think everyone should look at this thing. All right, so that leaves us with a tie of 0 points to 0 points. So, tiebreaker, which we'll see how well this works. And see if either of you can guess what my favorite mythical creature is, and you can just keep guessing until you get it right.
Your favorite mythical creature?
This is a lot more common. Don't worry, it's not one of these freaky weird ones.
Okay.
A centaur.
Minotaur.
Is it something from human civilization, or is it something from like literature?
What?
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't get that question.
Well, it could be from like a character or a
it
creature
appears
from
in
like
literature.
No, it could be like a creature from like Harry Potter.
It appears in literature. Okay.
I mean, I suppose
because there's so many
centaurs-
creatures, it does appear in Harry Potter. I'll give you that.
A Gryffindor.
A Gryffindor?
Griffin.
A griffin?
No. That's close. That's like my second
Phoenix.
favorite. Yes, Phoenix.
Yes. Sorry, I got excited there.
Okay.
You guys get a little clap in there.
All right. So, yep.
I like how I eliminated it down to Harry Potter for you. You're welcome.
He was like, I know phoenixes are
handed
beyond
that
that.
one
I don't
over.
know what else they show up in.
They show up in
like, I know they've
Percy Jackson, right? Oh, maybe nobody else read those.
I have read them. I'm not.
I read them.
I
Yeah.
thought
If
like
it does, it doesn't play as much of a role as Fox the Phoenix does in Harry Potter, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that concludes our game for today. With high scoring game, clearly.
And
With that concludes our show for today. But that leaves the one question remaining of what is on the fourth floor.
So I think it's the witch's house, and I think it's where all the chicken legs are.
with some of those umbrella creatures, just.
Yeah, you got the umbrella, the flesh umbrellas, just walking around.
Maybe every cubic inch of the fourth floor is full of black.
Oh yeah.
Just a layer.
Layer of black.
Hello? If you're still here, it's because you're looking for more. If that's the case, check us out on Facebook at What's on the Fourth Floor and Twitter at OnFloor4. Again, that's Facebook, What's on the Fourth Floor, Twitter at OnFloor4. That's at OnFloor, the number 4.